Hey, everybody. Cool Cat Jack coming at you with another little off-the-cuff review. I gotta stop calling them that. Just my Cool Cat reviews was what I call the ones where it's just me. Anyway, so today we're gonna look at a podcast, or more specifically, it's a series, but we're gonna be looking at a podcast within this, like, meta plot, I guess. It's from a mythos that's known as Liberty Endures. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview because it's not super important to this story. It just give you a little context. So this is a world where there was a war between this nation that had like a rebellion, and part of this world ended up basically becoming like the Road Warrior. You have all these gangs full of like cracked out weirdos living out in the wasteland of a desert. And then there's this city. You know, it's actually more like Logan's Run with like a Mad Max thing going on. But the main city is it's a very structured, very totalitarian regime. It has an archon, and she's basically like an emperor essentially in the level of power that she has. It's very scientific too. You pretty much you have all these rigid schooling that you go through, and based on your marks and your intelligence, it'll determine pretty much what you can do in life. So what we're going to be looking at is they have several series actually, and I recommend all of them very, very highly. Honestly, they don't need me to really recommend them. They have a much bigger fan base than I do, but I'm hoping that if one of you hasn't checked out these podcasts or the website Liberty Endures, you might give it a shot because there's a lot of really cool stuff with this. But we're looking at something known as Tales from the Tower. Now, I listened to one of the interviews with the creators. It's a company known as Fool and Scholar that created this series. They also have another one known as The White Vault, which is really, really good too. If you're like, into The Thing or like Lovecraft, that's another really good podcast. We may look at that actually eventually because I'm a huge podcast guy. Like, obviously, I made a podcast. I love podcasts enough to make one. So, though I think for next time, this has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now, but I think for next time I'm going to do that Bible Man episode. There was the one guy that actually put a message on one of my videos. I think I'll do that video he was talking about if I can find it. So we're looking at something known as Tales from the Tower. So in this world, Tales from the Tower is sort of it's set up by this government as a way of to entertain their people. It's also kind of mixed with propaganda. So it's sort of like this world's version of like The Twilight Zone or Are You Afraid of the Dark? So they're ghost stories, horror stories told within this world. It's a really interesting idea, and it's really, really original. I've never heard of that kind of thing being done in a mythos before. So, and it kind of lets you in onto the culture of this world, their fears, problems within it, because a lot of these stories are very, very they're based around technology going awry, about disorder, because they're a very organized society. Some of the stories involve fringers, which are these wasteland people. Today we're going to be looking at, it's actually from the second season, and I believe it's episode 6 from season 2. It's known as Insomnia, and even on its own, if you know nothing about this series, it's a great story. And it's very simple too. Like, it's probably not going to take too long to review this story. It's about a young boy who suffers from insomnia. He is afraid of the dark, and he's afraid of going to sleep at night because he thinks monsters are going to get him. This story, what it does well is it gets really into the mind of this kid, and his name's Ovid. So Ovid doesn't want to go to sleep at night because he's afraid something's going to happen to him. He's been seeing a doctor for a little while, and his mother and this doctor have been trying to figure out ways to help him get to sleep. For the first part of the series, we see him without getting any sleep that night. He wakes up and he goes to the breakfast table. His mom can see that he didn't sleep. In the back of his head, he's just saying, it's not my fault. I really do want to do good in school because his grades have been suffering at this point, but I just got to sleep. But I can't sleep at night. So he goes to school, and he ends up falling asleep in class. So he gets taken to the office, or the teacher talks to his mother. So the teacher talks to his mother, and he comes home, and he's really, really upset about this. The kid is, I want to guess he's just around that age, just before puberty, right around, I want to say 10 or 11. So his mom sits him down and says, like, I was talking with your doctor, and he said that you're at an age where things are starting to change, so you might be finding things that scare you a little more that you didn't scare you before. And Ovid gets really upset. Like, he actually cuts his mom off and says, I'm not afraid, right? Like, he gets really defensive about it. He's not sure why. He just does. So his mom, she's being a pretty understanding mom. So she pulls out this tablet-like thing. I think it is called a tablet. Well, she takes this tablet out and gets this app, and it's known as the Insomniac app. And basically what it does is it creates this melody that's supposed to help you sleep. So she turns it on, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about to you, another great compliment for this series. The music in these series, in all of their series, but especially Tales from the Tower, is really, really good. I don't remember the guy's name, but they mention him in every episode, and especially in this episode. Like, the melody that comes out is fucking creepy as hell, dude. Like, it's like this twinkling kind of robotic sounding noise, and it's not anything it's close to things you've heard, but it's not quite anything you've heard. And they kind of describe it that way too in the story. And this melody keeps coming back into the story. So Ovid actually starts falling asleep. It's actually working. He's getting really, really tired. His mom turns it off real fast, tells him, do your homework, take a bath, brush your teeth, get ready for bed, and you can go to bed early. And, well, he does. He does all that. He lays down, and she starts playing the melody, and he starts falling asleep. And this is where something strange happens. Just on the cusp of sleep, he starts to see some kind of thing in the corner of the room. He can't quite see what it is, but he knows something's there. And he goes to sleep that night. And he wakes up, and, everything's good. He slept really, really well. He's up and awake. He eats breakfast. He goes to school. He does really, really well in class. Like, he's just full of energy. Well, his mom is talking with him later, and she asks him, maybe we should use the Insomniac app again, because it seems like it worked really well for you. And there's a little voice in the back of his head that's telling him no. He's not sure why, because it's working, and it doesn't matter. He tells himself, it's fine, it's working, I'm just being ridiculous. My mom said, the night just tricks people, makes things look scarier than they are. The night lies, I'm going to be okay. He gets ready for bed that night, and he goes, lays down. His mom kisses him on the head, and she every time she puts him to bed, and he's put to bed several times in the story, like 4 or 5 times. She always kisses him on the forehead, and then says, "Sweet dreams, my darling boy," or something like that. He goes to sleep, or he's starting to go to sleep. The thing's closer to him, and it's looming over his bed this time. And they describe how it's this creature that's way too long, and it's got every time it moves, it clicks and cracks, and it's, like breaking bones. They put it has this. What really creeped me out is the crescent smile they mention, and its eyes are like stars basically. So it's really freaking creepy, especially because the freaking Insomniac app thing is playing too. So he flips out, right? He starts screaming. His mom runs into the room, turns the light on. She turns off the app, and he can't sleep. So she basically rocks him all night until he falls asleep in her arms. She calls the school and says that he has a fever. And this is where something interesting comes up, because throughout the story, he talks about how he doesn't believe his mom's ever afraid of the dark. She mentions that she was, and that's why he shouldn't be afraid, but he doesn't believe her. And she lies right now. She lies to the school about him having a fever, and he has to stay home. And there's this really, really dark thought in her head, or in Ovid's head, where he says, I wonder what else she's lied to me about. Anyway, so he stays up, and, it starts to get late that night, and he's getting tucked into bed. She tucks him in, kisses him on the head, "Sweet dreams, my darling boy," whatever. She's about to turn on the app. He says, "Don't do it." She puts it away in the drawer. I may be skipping over a little bit. I think there's another night before all this happens, but, you get the gist of the story. That night, he doesn't want to go to sleep, so he's staring up at the ceiling, and he's staring at the roof, just trying to make sure that he stays awake. And he starts to fall asleep. He hears the app go off in his dresser, and he starts flipping out, right? And his mom comes rushing into the room, She doesn't even turn the light on, and she crawls into bed with him and starts rocking him. But it's not quite right. The way they described it, they did a really good job with this part, because there's this really creepy whisper where it's like, shh. They said that it's not quite like his mother. It's not rocking. It's more like jerking motions that don't make sense, that are awkward. And, and the voice is really freaking creepy. That's keeps going, shh. So finally, Ovid looks up, and it's not his mom. It has his mom's hair, it has his mom's skin, it has his mom's clothes, but it is not his mom. It actually has that crescent smile and those eyes. There's this really creepy voice they do, where it basically says to him, "Sweet dreams, my darling boy." And then he's like, "Go back to sleep." And that's how the story ends. The story brings up a lot of interesting concepts, I think. It took me a couple times to kind of see where I think the author, and I might be reading into this a little too much. I suspect that the person that wrote this story either suffers from or has met people that suffer from night terrors, because because the way they describe what's going on is basically a night terror. If you have night terrors, maybe don't listen to this story, because you'll never sleep again. It also does a really good job of helping with insomnia. I myself suffer from insomnia periodically. I take seizure medication, and it makes it hard for me to sleep at night. So I have to take a sleep aid to help me sleep. You want to sleep when you have a seizure disorder, because otherwise you're more likely to have seizures. So I get that tired feeling where you can't go to sleep. It's not for the same reason, but I suspect the person that wrote this story suffers from some kind of sleep issue. It also kind of gets into this idea of children realizing the world is more dangerous than it actually is. His mother, he almost loses his absolute faith in his mother. Children at an early age oftentimes look at their parents as these people that can do no wrong, right? They're right about everything. They're your parents, right? But as you get older, particularly when you start reaching that age where you're starting to hit puberty, right around 10 or 11 or 12-ish, you're going to start questioning everything. So I think part of the story, the horror, is in that. But it's also just a general, the boogeyman's out to get me kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, so things to go with this. It's well acted. She's really good at what she does. And she does a good Ovid voice. I mean, it's clearly a girl or a woman trying to sound like a boy, but it's well acted, right? And like I said, guys, the melody at the end is like super creepy. You gotta find it. Like it's fucking weird. Especially if you did what I did the first time I listened to this, because I got really into podcasts back in Austin. I was living in Austin for about 4.5 years, and I remember one night, it was my day off. That's when I discovered the whole Liberty thing, and I've been kind of like a crazy fan, but I definitely like what they do, especially Tales from the Tower. But I remember listening to this story for the first time, and it was like in the middle of the night when I'm trying to go to sleep. Because believe it or not, I actually like to listen to podcasts, like horror stories, while I go to sleep. I'm not sure why. I usually listen to a lot of Lovecrafts, particularly stories I've already heard. I don't know what it is. I just find it really relaxing for some reason to listen to Lovecraft stories. Horror stories. Well, this story freaked me the fuck out. I did not go to sleep after that. So I highly recommend it if you like scary stories. And, the great thing about podcasts is you can listen to them while you're doing other stuff, I like to listen to them while I do dishes or take my dog on a walk, things like that. There was another one they did about this like serial killer that goes around stealing people's bodies or something. It turns out to be this like horrible monster that's stealing body parts. And like I remember listening to that story. There's 2 parts to it. And like I remember listening to that while I was taking my dog on walks. Or when I was going on walks back around the park at night. And it'd just be me. Just be listening to this freaking story about some monster coming along and hypnotizing people and taking them away. That's how I roll, son. So I highly recommend this episode. By the way, guys, I am sorry that we haven't had episodes for a little bit. I've been busy with work, and Logan is getting back to his job pretty soon. And with everything opening up, it's kind of gotten me distracted with stuff. This will come out not too soon after I record it. I'll edit this tonight. Probably try to get it put up at least by tomorrow. We're still doing Talos Principle. We haven't been able to play it, like I said, just because I've been working really late. Unfortunately, my buddy Logan's got to go home and take care of his dog, so he can't stay over really, really late. And I have to get sleep, right? So we just haven't been able to do that. We are looking, I think we're going to do a movie between then and now. Also, the Jared Laudner thing, guys. I know I mentioned that before. I think it's going to take a while longer. I honestly have been really, really bad about doing research. Just like I said, I've just been busy with shit lately. Sorry about that. I think the next Cool Cat review, like I said, is going to be another Bible Man episode, because people seem to actually like that. And one guy even mentioned it. I think his name was called The Cheater, the YouTuber. I don't want to call him out or anything like that, but he mentioned an episode that I might do. I think it was like the Conspiracy of the Liars or something. If I can find that one, dude, I'm going to do that one. But if not, I'll probably just do another one. Either way, you're going to get some Bible Man, which is always funny to me. That show's hilarious, guys. I have to get to work soon, and my dog is sitting outside because I didn't want her barking up a storm while I was doing this. So hopefully you're all having a good day. Glad everything's opening up again finally, at least where I'm at. Hopefully things just get back to normal soon, because honestly, being cooped up has been driving me freaking nuts. And I know a lot of you have been stir crazy too. So have a good day, guys. Take care of yourselves. Bye.